first of all, I want to recognize you for the effort and the willingness to be here with us and the time. We appreciate it so much. It's like really goes straight to our heart. Seriously, like.
Well, it's my pleasure, and so fun to have you two both be a part of Draper University. And now you're a part of our world, our hearts.
Yeah.
So you've done it. You've made it through. Well, most of it.
You know, when I heard first time about you from her when she had like the pitch competition and we were going to Draper. I was like, okay. And then the first time when I met you was here, like at Draper when we. Drip you and you walked on the stage and you were talking about the pledge and everything what's behind it, and there was so much craziness around it, but in a positive way, and I was like, I like this man, and it's like so much good energy. We're like on the stage and everyone was so energized and electrified. I'm like, what is he doing? What's the secret? And I'm like, how do you find that inner peace in all this variety of activities that you do in your life?
I have had a wide variety of activities, particularly today and yesterday, because today I spent 3 hours painting a masterpiece called Decentralize Everything, and it has Bitcoin, trust, freedom, and then it has California broken into 6 pieces, and it's got the US flag sort of like and the Chinese flag sort of broken into lots of pieces. And the thinking there is that decentralize means make decisions locally, and as many decisions as you possibly can locally before you bring them up to make them at the family level, and then maybe make them at the community level, and then maybe the city. But it's got to be a really important decision that should be very thoughtful and affect because it affects all those people before some leader, president or whatever, makes any kind of decision. The Russian president decided he just wanted to go to war, and all those people in Ukraine and all those people in Russia have been damaged by it. I mean, he just decided to go to war, and just kind of on his ego alone. The Chinese president just decided he wanted to lock everybody down so that he didn't get COVID or something. And that destroyed the entire global supply chain. I mean, these people, they're making a decision, they think, oh, this is very important. They put a Band-Aid on something. But boy, these decisions are far-reaching. They're making huge, huge mistakes. So I say decentralize everything. The Supreme Court decided to overthrow Roe v. Wade. Well, when Roe v. Wade came, the Supreme Court made that decision. In both cases, they alienated about half the country. And I look and I say, well, why don't you just push those decisions down? Those are either family decisions or religious decisions or personal decisions. Why do we have to enforce our values on somebody else who doesn't have those same values? Why does that feel right? So anyway, that's what the artwork is about. So very exciting.
I'm thinking, big people, big problems. Like I'm thinking what kind of problems you are tackling. Like how do you find your balance, like mental balance between all these things?
Well, I do meditate, or I did a lot when I was younger. And that was very helpful. If you meditate and if you can get into that sort of state, all of a sudden things become a little clearer. And the way I meditate, I bring myself down various levels. I go from the sort of the first surface level all the way down about 20 levels. And by the 20th level, it's like, things like, why am I here? And what's the purpose of the universe and that kind of thing. And, but you can kind of at the 5th level, you're solving some of your family issues. And at the 10th level, you're trying to think about, what would be good for the world. And then who knows what else you're thinking. But that meditation has been very good for me. I don't meditate that often, but I can actually go into the state pretty quickly. And so if things are getting too chaotic, either I just smile or laugh like I did last night, where I just thought, whoa, this is chaos and fun chaos.
Mostly fun.
Or mostly fun. Or I just sort of try to get back into that state so that I'm in at the equilibrium.
I see. You know, I'm thinking not right now, like into survival, like the day that we were there. And I think like most of our cohort, they got like a moment in their head, like impregnated a memory that it's one of the lowest moments, but they somehow, and we somehow overcame it, survived. I'm thinking like, what have been your lowest moments and how did you overcome them?
Well, first I'll tell you why we do survival, and it is so that you do have very low moments. Ideally, I mean, the best survival was when it rained all 5 days.
Oh my God.
And the thing that was the most valuable in that survival was socks, dry socks. Otherwise, people's feet were just melting. And there is a reason we want entrepreneurs to know how low it can go and that you can still come out of it and don't worry about it. And so that's a powerful thing. That's a strong and powerful thing to have a baseline where you say, well, I could always just be sleeping under the stars again, with, and just holding onto somebody else for warmth or whatever. And then you have that and you say, oh, well, then the sky's the limit. So there's no limit to the sky. And I can do anything. And I think that's the goal for us, is to try to make sure that you, as entrepreneurs, feel that you can do anything. My low moments, well, I've had a lot of low moments, but what I like to do is I like to think about them as something my dad used to say, which is just think, when things get really, really rough, think of what a great story it'll make. And so sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just think, well, how would I put this together in a story? And then you tell the story, and then it's sort of, once you've talked about it, it kind of blows off your back. You don't have to. I think when people go through crises and they keep them all to themselves, that's where they start to spiral down. I think if you have a crisis, hey, I fell off a horse and broke 6 ribs on my back, and I don't think I've felt that kind of pain in my life before, and but I thought about, well, this will make a good story. I was on the president of Chile's ranch. I got bucked off a horse. It was kind of a big deal.
And then you said the horse was the best.
Well, I got the biggest, fastest horse, and it was a nice horse. And but the horse wanted to run, and I was trying to keep it from running. And I let the reins out for just a second. So it's kind of, you don't want to spend too much of your time wallowing in sorrow about something that went badly for you. I think you really want to spend your time thinking about how do you make things better. One of the most positive people I know is Gina Close. And she comes and dances and but she's been through so much personally.
Yeah.
And so I give her so much credit for that, is to keep a positive attitude when a lot of things could have gone very badly. And it turns out people are more attracted to people who are optimistic. They feel better. They want to be they want to be there. I have a friend who, if I come to him, and with a friend, you're supposed to be able to say when things aren't going well. If I come to this guy and I'm down, he just says, "Get out of here."
Oh, okay.
And when I'm up, he wants to be up. So he's got, he basically, it probably helped train me to just always think, well, what's the bright side?
So when it's like a negative thought, what you do is like you accept it and then focus on the good side of it.
I try to just, if you have a negative thought and you realize that then you got to do something about it to get rid of it.
That's good, but like what?
Well, it depends on the negative thought. Give me a negative thought and then I'll figure out what to do with it.
Okay. So like an action which takes you out of the negative thought?
Yeah, if you had a negative thought, then, what do I do about it? So I come up with a negative thought. I'll see if there's something I can do about it. And then if there's nothing I can do about it, or if I've done all I can for the moment, then I'll let it go.
I think this comes with time and with wiseness, I guess. Like there's not that many men out there which are vulnerable, and they allow people to see their vulnerability. I see like it's a strength. Like I'm really curious. What's your opinion about self-love, self-care, self-forgiveness, and how to apply that in your daily life?
Well, self-love, everybody's got to love themselves, because otherwise you've got nothing to give. You're focused too much on yourself. Self-love, what were the other two things?
Self-forgiveness.
Self-forgiveness. Oh yeah, you got to forgive yourself. You got to let those go. You've got to feel like if you've done something and you go, oh God, why did I do that? You have to kind of go, okay, well, I did it. So now what do we do from here? It's a little like, I played a lot of board games when I was younger. And I'll make, if it's chess, I make a move and I got to live with it. As soon as I take my hand off the piece, I got to live with it. And if he does something unexpected, and I'm in trouble, then I'm in trouble. I got to adjust. And so I have a new, or in a game of cards, if I play a card, here are the cards I've been dealt. So what do? Do the best with the cards you're dealt. And chess is good, Risk is good, Monopoly is good, because Monopoly is particularly good because you could have a fortune and then it's gone. And you sort of feel like, oh God, now what do I do? And you say, I did that stupid thing, but now what do I do? And so you have to sort of rethink your strategy, rethink your life. And so when something takes you down, then you kind of go, okay, I've been through, I guess, 4 of these crashes in the stock market. I wasn't prepared for the first 3, but I was prepared for this one.
It takes 3
It
times.
took 3. I'm slow. I'm a slow learner, but eventually I get there. So knowing that but when the market crashes around you, or then you have all these doubts and go, oh no, all those things I did, and what do I do? Maybe I made a whole bunch of mistakes, or maybe I've really affected people negatively, or I've done something wrong. Those are the thoughts where that's the time to double down. When you start thinking that way, it's like, first of all, you're wrong. Don't think that way, because you've been doing good things all the way along. Just because you've got you stepped into a hole doesn't mean that you haven't continued to do good things. And now that it's a hole, you got to lift yourself up. Now the other thing is, I actually like lifting other people up when they have fallen, because it's really interesting. Those are critical times, and sometimes when somebody has fallen, you can really have an impact on their life by just jumping in at the right time. So I tend to do that. I tend to take, and they think I'm a big risk taker. I take risks, but I don't take risks that will break me if they don't go well.
You know how I see it? If I look at it, like I see you a very free person. Like freedom is all over. Promote freedom at all costs.
At all costs. It's number one.
It's number one.
It's the
yes.
first one
And
on our credo, on our pledge.
Exactly. And then you said
I
the
will
story.
promote freedom at all costs. It's number one by far for me.
Then you said the story with your mom that at some point when you were a kid, she dropped you in the car, like you find a way home. I guess that was the moment. I don't know what happened there, but
That happened many times. The other thing that happened was we get to a new location,
Oh.
and she'd just say, "Go explore." That was magic.
That was magic.
That was so great because it just meant, oh, okay, I'll just go. And at first you're a little bit afraid, you're thinking, wait, go explore. What, shouldn't I just stay here where there's a house and a yard or something? And then, but when you start exploring, all sorts of things happen.
Was she watching you like from?
No.
Not at all.
No, it was like she wanted to talk to her friends. Once in a while she'd watch. But I mean, once I was 6, 7, she knew I wasn't going to get in too much trouble.
Oh wow.
And so she'd say, go explore, and I would find the greatest things, and I'd bring them back, and I'd say, hey, here's what I've got from my exploring.
No, but that's seriously, this is so much. And like when I look at you, that's freedom that comes first. And then when we jumped into the ocean, that was like crazy again. Like I love the ocean so much, and like let's do it.
That ocean,
Yeah.
it is a refreshing thing. And I have to recover from my 2 surgeries, and going into the ocean, I look at it that and I think, this is the best thing I can do,
All right.
is to go into the ocean.
I want to see your perspective. Like I wrote it there. Like this is how I see freedom. I learned it from a mentor, and he said like the freedom is at the cross.
Responsibility, spelled with an I, not an A there.
Ouch. Oh, okay.
I thought you were testing me.
No. It's
My
like
spelling.
no. It's like at the choice and getting involved. So it's you choose in what you get involved, and then you are free. Or you are getting involved every time in what you choose. If you are choosing and not getting involved in what you choose, then you're not free. Or if you are getting involved in something which you didn't choose, you're also not free.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good way of thinking.
Oh.
I have found that getting involved in whatever is the most fun. When I'm just doing kind of the regular job of venture capital, I'll read business plans, interview entrepreneurs, whatever. But when I'm really getting involved, it's when I'm digging into their business model, or I'm helping them build their product, or I'm working on my own business, going out fundraising. It's actually getting involved, going out, setting up other venture firms around the world, coming and doing Meet the Drapers, the show, or setting up the school, creating a new school. All those things were like, I'm getting involved, and I'll get my hands dirty until I really understand what needs to be done, and then I'll be able to hire somebody to take that role. That's kind of the way I look at it, because I'm not when the role is clear, I'm not as good at doing it. I'm better with a blank sheet of paper.
Oh my God, I love that. You just write your own story.
Yeah.
You rather write it or someone would write it for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was just given 4 blank canvases over there, and I filled them. And it was interesting because for the first 5 minutes, I was just staring at one of the blank canvases, and I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then once I took the paint, took the paintbrush and the paint, and I just started to lather it on, I thought, okay, now I'm going. And I think sometimes you just have to take that leap, and that's why we have that ceremony where I just jump into the pool. It's because we want everybody to take that step. Take your first step. Just take that first step. Once you've got that first step, you whatever happens. And it's a leap, and there's uncertainty. You don't know how cold the water is. You don't know if you'll be able to swim. You don't know what the clothes are going to feel like when you're, swimming in your clothes. You don't know any of that stuff. But when you go in, then you kind of go, okay, I get it. Yep. And I lived through it, so we're good.
I love that.
Vio and I at the moment we are writing a book where we document the process of launching self-talk.
Being in the pool.
And also documenting the process of building the algorithm behind the human mindset, the most elevated ideas that we as humans collected and like to navigate this world. And one of the chapters is about money. Money beliefs, money mindset. We both come from a country that's
About money.
Yeah, money.
Yeah, great.
We both come from a country that's like a developing country, and there's a lot of scarcity attached to the concept of money. And we paid a lot of attention to, detach ourselves and upgrade those beliefs. And I think you are the right person to talk about like money mindset and like money beliefs, because you come from a family of venture capitalists.
Yeah.
And I was really curious to see what beliefs did you pick up from your family and how about money, or like money mindset, and how did they progress over time?
Well, my father used to say, "Easy come, easy go," and that's the way he looked at money. It's like, well, we made some money, we lost some money, and now we got to struggle. There were times when we had very little money, but we were having a blast. There were times when we had a lot of money and we were not. We were kind of overwhelmed by it. I think it's really important for every family to talk about money. I think every child should have an allowance when they're 6 and start earning money for the work they do when they're 6.5. And then get to the toy store so they can see how they can take the money and turn it into a toy, or an ice cream store to turn it into ice cream. People should understand that, hey, if I earn this, if I work, then I can do this, or I can try this. And if I don't do that, maybe I'll have an allowance, but I won't have the big thing. I won't. They always worry about child labor laws, and I guess that is a big problem if you're like working kids 8 hours a day doing the same thing over and over. But I did a lot of different odd jobs. Painted a trailer. I picked apples and sold them on the street. I bought oysters and resold them door to door. I mowed lawns. I weeded gardens. I did a bunch of different things, and each of those were kind of like a step toward thinking, knowing that I could do things like that, for one thing, like getting my hands dirty and I can try stuff. But also just that concept of how money, and then how much I made in different jobs, and being able to compare them and say, well, I was making more money doing this, and it wasn't a lot of work. When I bartended, I was thinking, wow, those are big tips. And that wasn't that hard. That work wasn't that hard. And when I was weeding the garden, I was making a penny a minute. And that was not good money. So I kind of, you start getting a perspective. The more jobs that you can take, the better the perspective can be. I'll tell you, it's interesting. When I picked apples, I was with my mom said, hey, there are all those apples on the tree, what do you want to do with them? And I said, okay, I'll pick them and I'll sell them on the street. So I pick all these apples and I start selling them on the street. And a couple of friends come up and they come and go. And I did it for about 4 weeks. And then it was sort of the last day, and we were just about out of apples, and a neighbor's mother came over to look at us and say, so how much money did you make? And I said, $8. And I've got my $8. And she said, let me see that. And she takes it from me. And there were about 4 or 5 other people just hanging around. And she takes $1 and she gives me $1. gives this other guy $1, another guy $1, another guy $1, girl $1. And then she takes $2 herself and walks away.
What?
And I thought, this is socialism. I don't like it. And
did you knew the word socialism?
no, I just knew that I didn't like that.
That's not fair.
And I thought, wait a second. And that was fairness to her. She felt that was fairness, that the government takes $2 of the dollars, hands $1 out to everybody. And everybody's fine, happy. They all get $1. And I'm thinking, I just put 4 weeks of work into this. And I ended up with the same dollar as everybody else. That made no sense. So I've been a capitalist ever since.
Nice.
And that freedom to go make money, and you earn what you keep. I pay taxes. I like paying taxes. I think it's good for, you can help out other people. And a lot of interesting things come from paying taxes. I don't like regulations. I don't like when the government says, no, you can't wear your hair that way. No, you can't wear a sweater that covers your neck. No, you can't, red is not acceptable for fingernails. That kind of thing. And that's what they've been doing to the blockchain. They've been saying, no, you can't do that, because we have this law, 80-year-old law, that we're adapting to this new world, and they're forcing us to not innovate. And meanwhile, in El Salvador, they're innovating like crazy. So I'm feeling like we're losing our innovative edge here. And I've always loved this country because freedom is like front and center for America, for the United States of America. But we're starting to lose it because they're starting to overregulate us. They're even saying what we're allowed to say. Free speech was absolutely fundamental to the United States of America. Free speech. And all of a sudden, if you say, I don't know, there used to be 7 words you weren't allowed to say on the radio. Now there are probably 107.
Yeah.
And that limits people, because sure, you'll hurt people's feelings. Who cares? Somebody's feelings get hurt. That's good, because that person can then come back and say, you hurt my feelings because, I don't like it when you do that. And then you learn, and then you have a decision that you can make. Do I ever do that again, or do I not do that again? Let the debate happen. Let people talk. Let them say whatever they want. Somebody says something weird, I kind of go, oh, that was weird. And then you start thinking, it opens your mind up.
And this is how progress happens.
And then you get progress. Yeah, you get this like inventiveness. And then who knows, that one moment might have created a creative song or a play or a movie or something, just because we had that interaction. If we never had that interaction, then there was no inspiration for my movie about that word.
Yeah. When it comes to your kids, how did you install healthy money beliefs in them?
Yeah, it is interesting. There are a lot of cultures that sort of say, we don't talk about money.
Yeah.
We do. At the dinner table, we're talking about money all the time. We're talking about their money. We're talking about my money. We're talking about my wife and how she spent her money. We talk about money. And the reason we do it is we want people comfortable with it. We don't want them to be sort of hiding or trying to figure something out. We want it open so we can go, yeah, okay, well, Bitcoin went from here to here, so we've got less money, so be careful for a while, but it's going to come raging back. So we believe that Bitcoin's going to be here forever and ever. So, we had the stock in that company, and that company went bankrupt. I mean, it's great for people to know that things can go badly or well, and that they may have to adjust their buying habits based on that. I think that's really important. And if you're an investor, first, you don't want to invest anything you can't lose. People always say, well, that'll never happen. Never happens. Whatever they say never happened, that happens.
Black swans. Yeah.
The black swan is
Oh,
always there.
The time.
It's like, I mean, the DeFi thing that happened with the Luna and
Yeah.
Terra, it was so clear that would happen at some point. Yeah.
You had maybe 2 more minutes.
Okay. So it was to me, I always, you know what helped me a lot was taking calculus, because in calculus they always have the limits. They say a limit of 0 or a limit of infinity or a limit of whatever. And most people just want to be sitting there in the middle of the bell curve. But I want to know what happens in this case and in this case. I want to know how great this could be and how bad it could get. Because the rest is just living your life, whatever. It's boring. The top of the bell curve is boring. These are the really interesting things, and they really do happen. And so I tend to overread legal documents. I tend to look at them and say, well, wait, what if this is written this way? What if this happens? They go, oh, and it never happens. And then I go, oh, okay. If it never happens, we're getting rid of this line.
My last question. It's about bending reality. I was reading about it in the book of in the biography of Steve Jobs, and he was saying that he's bending reality through his thoughts, by shaping his thoughts. How do you use the concept of bending reality to impact?
Well, the concept of reality is not one that I'm particularly familiar with, because I look and I say, well, what's real to you? The way you perceive colors may be entirely different to the way I perceive colors. You've got blue eyes, I got brown eyes. Who knows? We may have very different views of what's coming in here.
Perception. Yeah.
So our realities are, this to me looks like a microphone, but that could be a microphone, or it could be, you guys could be playing some game with me. I look at whenever anybody says, well, let's get real about this, or let's get be reasonable, or but in reality, whenever I see or hear that, I think, that's your perception of what reality is. That's your view. That's your comfort around something. But it's I'm a little bit more of the view of the 15 blind people that are walking around an elephant, and one thinks pulls on the tail and thinks it's a rope, and one pulls on one thinks it's a bugle. The trunk is a bugle and the ears are something else. So everybody's got a very different view of what this reality thing is. So I have I always feel like, what do I think when I invest in people? I say, is this something I want the world to be?
Oh, wow.
And if it is, then I think, okay, what are the odds that that's going to happen? And then I think, and what are the odds it's not going to work? And so I'm kind of maybe the only venture capitalist who thinks this way. How high is up? I'm not asking as many of the questions like what can go wrong, because it's like, 2 girls and a dog, and you're getting some business going, and I'm thinking, well, maybe they can do it. And if they can't, sure, the odds are very far against them. Lots of things can happen. You two go out and start a business, a lot can happen. You can trip and fall and it throws the whole game off, or alternatively, you could hit it just right. And if you hit it just right, that's what I care about. What is the black swan where you both hit it just right and it becomes $1 trillion business? Then do I like the world? Mm-hmm. So then I figure that out and I say, okay, this is worth betting on. So there you have it. Great. This was a good interview. Good job. Good job. That was really fun.
Yeah, me too.
I Oh my god.
This is terrific. Great, fun interview. I like this.
Thank you. I would change this.